Good morning to all. This is ANANTHA LAKSHMI from the Department of English, PB Siddhartha College of Arts and Science. Today we will discuss the topic nature of communication. Communication is derived from a Latin word which means sharing of information. Every one of us try to communicate with one another every day. So let us see the process of communication. In every communication situation, there are two parties. First one is sender, and the next one would be the receiver. To encode a message, relevant symbols are selected and arranged into a pattern to convey meaning. The choice of the channel and the type of symbols is determined by the situation. When the sender transmits a message, he expects a response. The sender is naturally interested in knowing how his message has been received. The observation of the receiver's response is called as feedback. In many cases, the message fails to produce the desired response because of a semantic gap between the sender and the receiver. The failure occurs because the sender may not be clear about his objective, or he may use inappropriate language to convey his ideas. It also occurs if the receiver is not able to understand and interpret the message in the same way. Coming to types of communication. Communication is a natural manifestation of a complex process of human behavior. All of us communicate in a variety of ways and for a number of purposes. Sometimes we talk to ourselves. A sort of internal dialogue takes place in which we command ourselves to do something or not to do something. The quiet dialogue within ourselves and the verbalized dialogue between self and self are termed as intrapersonal communication. Communication taking place between two parties, namely the sender and the receiver, is called as interpersonal communication. This is a face-to-face communication in which we try to communicate one to the other. Verbal communication is communication through spoken and written words. That is, it is both in oral and written forms. Non-verbal communication is a communication in which signs are used to convey feelings or ideas of a person. Coming to the classification of communication, we can classify the communication on the following basis. First one is according to the mode. According to mode, we can send any kind of message through oral or written means. According to medium, according to medium, we can send a message by using electronic media or print media. Third one, according to the number of participants. If communication takes place between two persons, it is called as dyadic communication. And if the communication takes place between more than two, it would be called as a group communication. Ideal group could be 3 to 9. According to the direction, one way and two way. According to the purpose, general or specific. Now coming to the aspects. We have different aspects regarding communication, the first one of which is global aspects. There are certain aspects of communication that are of crucial importance, in which global aspect is one of them. Communication is to some extent culture specific. The system of symbols, beliefs, attitudes, values, expectations, and patterns of behavior differ from one culture to another culture. So, when we try to communicate between people of different cultures, we have to be very careful. These differences are manifested in the notions of status, attitude towards time, decision making habits, use of space, and body language, as well as social behavior. To avoid cross cultural conflicts, you need to be more open minded, tolerant, and courteous. We should also keenly observe the non-verbal symbols and clues, because these may differ from other social norms and patterns. So try to treat your foreign counterpart not as he would like to be treated, but rather as he wants to be treated. Then we can avoid the so called cross cultural conflicts. Thus, while dealing with people belonging to a different culture, do not take things for granted. Observe carefully their social behavior, study their values, and also be meticulous in making an analysis. The second aspect we see in communication is the ethical aspect. Ethical aspect of organizational culture centers around values such as fairness, integrity, honesty, quality, compassion, and dignity. These values are reflected directly in certain written and spoken messages and indirectly in verbal and non-verbal behavior of the members of the organization. Ethics as a part of organizational culture is communicated directly by several means. Ethical codes are in the form of rules of conduct meant to shape the employee's behavior. The third one is legal aspects. There is a legal aspect of business communication, and you should be aware of it while dealing with individuals, governments, and other organizations and agencies. Nothing should be done in contravention of rules, regulations, and laws in force at the time of communication. A defamation case is filed in a court of law by an individual when a communication made publicly is false or injurious to his character or reputation. When this is done in writing, it is called as libel, and when this is done orally, it is termed as slander. The organization and its employees should feel secure in using modern means of technology, and they should also know the limits of intrusion into privacy and the stage at which it becomes illegal. Coming to the next topic, informal communication. In every organization, the flow of communication is also through a network of informal channels, which is often termed as grapevine communication. When employees meet one another during their free time in canteen, restroom, etc., during tea time or lunch break, they freely exchange their views and without any inhibition, they try to share their feelings, concerns, and anxieties related to their work and functioning of their organization. What is more important is to understand the nature of informal communication and ways to use it for the benefit of the organization, and also how to restrict and control its flow when it threatens to become merely a means of transmission of refer. Gender communication. The number of women working in both public and private sectors has enormously increased during the last 2 or 3 decades. Consequently, communication at workplace now not only is confined between men and men but also between men and women. The result shows that there is a noticeable difference in the styles of communication in men and women. Basically, the female perception of issues and attitudes towards the manner of addressing problems are different from those of men. The gender based difference stems partly from their innate nature and partly from upbringing at home and the kind of education and training imparted at the schools and college they have studied. Communication during crisis. Crisis is an unpredictable and an unpleasant event which may tarnish the reputation of an organization and adversely affect their performance. A crisis provides a fertile ground for the birth and spread of rumors which may aggravate the anxiety and disorder caused by the situation. Detailed planning of action to be taken and tasks to be performed by each employee directly involved in dealing with the crisis. Appointment of an expert to head the chain of command, specially devised to handle the situation. Identification of alternative channels for dissemination of authentic information. Timely release of information to the media in order to prevent any damage to the goodwill of the organization. Formulation and transmission of post-crisis follow-up messages to all the employees for better management of crisis in future. Documentation of all aspects of such events as causes action taken. Role of employees in meeting the situation. suggestions for strengthening the crisis communication system, etc. The above said measures could be taken in order to avoid any kind of critical situation. Thank you.